Hello, and thanks for joining us at Startup Grind this morning. Today's event is brought to you by Spark Center, a regional innovation center in Durham Region. As the Eastern Ontario chapter of Startup Grind, Spark Center is thrilled to bring you these monthly events to inspire, motivate, and challenge you. We'd like to acknowledge Spark Center's elite partners, Bearskin and Parr, LLP, Finance Without Borders, RDP Associates, Leighton, and Suresh Law. Today's event is sponsored by the Durham Regional Technology Development Site, the Durham RTDS for short. Spark Center is one of 4 consortium partners in the Durham RTDS alongside Durham Region, Durham College, and Ontario Tech University. My name's Dan Ruby, and I'm the Manager of Business Development and Investment at Durham Region. I'm a short 2 months in on that role, and my role is to manage the investment attraction for Durham Region, to coordinate and organize the foreign direct investment initiatives, and to bring in promising multinational headquarters here to Durham Region. For the last 7 years, I worked for an organization called the Ontario Centre of Innovation. And for the last 3 years of that stint, I was the sector manager for the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, or OVIN for short. So I'm very familiar with the Durham RTDS as one of the nodes, 7 nodes across the province, and also very familiar with our special guest here today, Roy Tal, as he was a favorite client of mine as sector manager under OVIN. If you're a startup or an SME with innovation in electric and connected vehicles, smart mobility, and smart community solutions, be sure to follow Durham RTDS on LinkedIn and visit durhamrtds.ca to subscribe to the newsletter. If you haven't already heard, next Thursday is the 5th installment of the Future of Transportation and Mobility series, or FTMS. This virtual conference is co-hosted by the Durham RTDS and the CITM, or Centre for Integrated Transportation and Mobility, the Hamilton RTDS, and we'll look at the intersection of connected transportation and electrified vehicles. This year's FTMS will wrap up with in-person networking receptions in both Oshawa and Hamilton. Visit ftms.citm.ca for more information and to register to attend. Now the interview portion of today's event will begin shortly, but don't forget to stay tuned after the interview for networking. If you haven't tried networking on Hopin platform before, it's fun, easy, and a great way to meet some new faces. So let's get into it. Today's featured guest is Roy Tal, an entrepreneur, executive, and engineer, and the Chief Technology Officer at Visual Defense, an award-winning Ontario company specializing in AI and computer vision solutions. Visual Defense worked with the region of Durham on a groundbreaking project, and I'm looking forward to discussing Roy's entrepreneurial journey and how Visual Defense got to where it is now, and hear about their team's experience working with Durham Region. And as we begin, I'd like to show a short video about the project.
Hi, I'm John Henry, CEO and Chair of the Region of Durham, and today I'm here at the Oshawa Whitby Works Depot to talk about some amazing technology using artificial intelligence to detect potholes. Today I'm joined by Eric, Manager of Maintenance Operations here in the region. Can you tell us, Eric, about a little bit about this amazing technology that we're using to detect potholes?
Thank you, Chair Henry. Rover is an application that goes on our smartphone that's mounted to the windshield of our trucks, and we use that as an automatic pothole detection system. It continuously scans the roadway for deficiencies and potholes, takes pictures of the potholes and logs them in the cloud, so our crews can then prioritize work and fix potholes faster within the region. We've been working with our partner, Visual Defense, to develop the application Rover. We're the main partner with them currently as a regional municipality. We've won a couple awards as well through TAC and through the Smart Cities Awards, and we're really eager to get this out to develop a better road network so we can repair potholes before they're detected or complaints come in from the public.
Thank you, Eric. This is just another way the region is using technology to improve the lives of our residents, not only their day-to-day travels, but getting them home safe.
I'd like to invite Roy to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Roy. So I'd like to begin the questions by talking about yourself. Did you always have an entrepreneurial streak, or did that come later in life?
So I'm going to say that it came later in life, basically in my 30s, and it's been a bit of a process to, let's say, get to this mindset as well. So I was very lucky that after my university education was completed, I had about 10 years to practice all sorts of different jobs, doing different things. And with time, of course, that helps to build the experience and the confidence to be more entrepreneurial.
So, what shaped you in your early years? How did you become you?
Sure, yes. So I was born in Israel in the 80s to my parents. They were about 20 at the time that they had me. So I like to say that they were children raising children. And I was the first born of three siblings. And as you can imagine, growing in a home with two young parents and just they were just starting their lives. We lived happy but honest lives. And my parents sometimes, at least in the beginning, worked two jobs. And my dad also studied and worked at the same time. So he worked really hard. And by the time I was in elementary school, he was already a financial controller of a mid-sized manufacturing company. But being young and seeing your parents work really hard, it does leave on you some impact or imprint. So they also, of course, always made me work for my money. So I remember we lived in an apartment building. There were 3 stories there, and there was a common area. And the cleaning person has left, and they said, "Roy, we have a job for you." And I said, "Awesome. What is it?" They said, "You're the new cleaning person in this building." I said, "Okay, what do I get paid?" And they told me $15. I said, "That sounds great." And they said, "For 3 hours of work." I said, "Okay." So it wasn't, let's say the pay wasn't that good, but it gave me my first experience working for money. And I saved some money with this and bought also my first computer. I bought it myself with my own money. And I also did some other jobs for my family. So it's a little different there. But when I was, I think maybe 10 or 12, I was already like walking for 15 minutes and then taking a bus for another 20, 30 minutes. And I worked for my grandpa. He was a lawyer and he worked in a different city. So I would update case laws for him. It was the same sort of a pay, about $5 per hour, but it was an office job. So it was a little bit nicer than the other job. And so, for my early years, basically, considering I had to work for a lot of things, it just kind of built this expectation that if you want something, you got to work for it.
So, how old were you when you came to Canada?
I was 15.
15. And what was your internal reaction to moving from Israel to Canada? What were your initial thoughts about Canada?
It's really different because Israel is a little bit more like condensed. It's like living in Toronto, but the buildings are not so big. It's a lot of mid-rise. So suddenly you see all of these sprawling spaces everywhere. That was quite nice. And moving from an apartment to a home here, it was good. And I'd say it wasn't as difficult as it could be for some other countries you come from, because I was 15 at the time, so I had some experience with English from school. But yeah, I had the same, I guess, immigrant journey as everybody else, coming here, learning a new language, making new friends, and basically starting my life here.
Wonderful. I would say that the quintessential Canadian story of hardworking immigrants coming to Canada and helping to build this great country. Okay, so in terms of your career, can you tell us a little bit about your career before visual defense and maybe some of the pain points that led to your business idea?
Sure, yeah. So my career has been actually mostly with visual defense. It does feel like I've worked in a lot of different jobs, 5 or 6 different jobs here. So my story is not, let's say, 100% entrepreneurial. There's a lot of intrapreneurial elements to it as well. So it is working within a company and basically pivoting what we do and shifting things around. So I'll talk a little bit about, I guess, my career here and how it started and how it led to where I am today. So basically, I finished my education. I did a computer engineering degree in the University of Western Ontario in London. And my first job was testing software here. So we used to sell visual defense security software, basically alarm systems, video surveillance systems, access control systems. And in this job, I learned our software inside out. So I would know how to, basically all the features, how they work. And with time, there was an opportunity for me to basically, with trade shows, go with the salespeople there and kind of set up the system for the show, make sure that it's working okay. If people had technical questions about some features, I would answer them. And around the same time, we were also kind of, rather than reselling other companies' access control systems, we were looking into building our own. So being in a trade show, I went ahead and I talked to all the access control vendors there and collected all of their product cut sheets and the websites. And I got really, really interested in this and working with our R&D department and kind of becoming a little bit of an expert in our organization in access control. I slowly moved into leading the development of this new product that we developed. And it was really good experience because to build an access control system, there's a lot of different elements that you get to get familiar with. Things like installation manuals, standards that are required in order to do it, because access control system opens and closes the doors for those of you who are not familiar with it. And basically, you want to make sure, for example, if there's a fire alarms, all the doors open. So there's a lot of standards that are kind of associated for safety as well. It also had software components to it. It had like the business, the business perspective of how to enroll and not enroll people and integrate to different systems. It had panels, electronics panels, so it helped me to take this education I had in some electrical as part of my program and apply it here and understand to put things like protection on circuits and all that stuff. And it was really good experience. I've done it for a few years, and those panels that we developed and the system that we developed still out there today in international airports, opening and closing doors and sleeves to airplanes. So it's pretty nice to see that it's still being used. From there, I went. There was another opportunity that we had, which was installation of security cameras on trains. So we had an interesting project where the project manager left, and I kind of filled in for him and slowly took it over. The project was already sold before I moved into the role, so I was really just responsible for the implementation of the system. But installing cameras on trains is really, really hard. So basically you have the train cars and they can get decoupled and recoupled. So it's kind of like a puzzle. And every time they kind of assemble a train, all the systems are supposed to talk to each other. You're supposed to install this on the trains, but they always have to be on traffic. It's kind of like buses. They're always going. So there's very limited time window to install things on them. And on top of everything, the installation site was inside of a mountain in Sweden. So we had to kind of fly there all the time, people, and fix it. So it was quite the experience, just like the logistics and learning this new product and kind of fitting it in there as well. There were some challenges too. What happened is those trains, they're electrical trains. So when we asked the customer if they always have power, they said yes, they sit right on the power grid. But actually, when they go for maintenance or when they come out, they lower those booms that touch the power thing, and you start to experience these things with like electronics that are called brownouts or other things, like all sorts of technical issues that you didn't expect. So it was a really, really challenging project. We completed it. Everything was good at the end. But for me, it was a really great learning experience in terms of some things to look for before you do project and some things that you would expect when you install products out there to do. So it was really good experience too. So once this project finished, there was an opportunity to move into a more like engineering and proposal job. So I moved there, and basically most of our projects were to government, transportation authorities. It could be like a transit authorities, like TTC here, for example. It could be airports or seaports. And for those, usually we have to go for RFPs or tenders. So at that point, I basically would kind of work with our technical designer, do the architecture, get quotations from suppliers, basically put together a budget. I would talk to the business people to kind of learn what things to emphasize, what things were important for these customers. And it really improved my writing skills which is really, really important, I think, for entrepreneurs. It's not essential, but it is important.
I
And
can
if you're
interrupt you for a second on that one, Roy, and verify that yes, it was always a pleasure working with you on the proposals through Oven. Your writing skills were exceptional. You were what I would define as an easy client to work with,
Thank
um,
you.
and significant work was done, always on time, always ahead of time. So yeah, I can verify that your experience was very valuable from that
Thank,
perspective.
thank you. And now you know why, because I had to do it for about 3 or 4 years before as well. And you kind of get a system going. If anybody is interested, I'm also would recommend a book to read. It's called the Shipley Proposal Guide. So when I did it, I really wanted to learn how to write. It's mostly useful if you're selling to large government organizations, if you're writing grant proposals, if you're responding to RFPs or tenders or things like this. It's useful there, and it kind of talks a little bit about how to answer questions properly, how to put winning responses and winning proposals, and to tailor your message to the audience. It has a lot of examples. So for me, it was very good, and I'd say I took some inspiration from there as well. And we had our CTO. He was with us for about eight years since the beginning of the company, or 10 years. He was with us for a while. He left to do something else. So at that point, I had nice and varied experience in our company, and for the last 7 years, I took over this role, being the chief technology officer here. And in visual defense, chief technology officer means innovation, strategy, and partnership. So that's essentially, I'm going to say, when my entrepreneurial spirit started, where people were not telling me anymore what to do. I had to figure out what to do myself, and where to push our team, and where to invest our time and resources. And in 2018, artificial intelligence started to become really, really accessible to everybody. And us being in the security business with cameras and all of the things that could be used there, we thought, hey, it'd be really, really nice to add to our system an artificial intelligence component that could say, for example, in a building, if there's people or no people there, if there's a fire or no fire. So I did some research on it. I downloaded some Python libraries to my computer with some model from the internet. I can tell you that the first artificial intelligence project at Visual Defense was to just install a library that you show it a picture and it tells you what animal is in the picture. So you would show it a giraffe, it would say a giraffe. And we're really impressed. We even showed it like an elephant, and it would say like if it's like an African elephant, or there's other types of elephants too, I guess based on the tusks and all this stuff. And I was walking around with my laptop in the office showing it to everybody. We had people trying to fool the AI, show it like a Siberian tiger that's not like orange but white, and it still got it right. So it's pretty impressive. And we said, okay, this is something that we do want to venture into because it looks fairly easy to use and it works really good. And initially, as a company that does technology, we like to try to get some funding whenever it's possible from government funding programs. So the first program we reached out to for our artificial intelligence research was NRC IRAP, which basically, if you're developing technology, I recommend that you get in touch with them. They like the idea. They like that it found the animals right, and they like the context of using it for security systems, and they give us some money for developing this technology, and that's how we got into artificial intelligence.
That's great. I'll put a short plug in there for IRAP's a great organization. They've been around for many years, funding innovation in Ontario, and here in Durham Region, Mark Witzel and Young Chen are two great individuals. If anybody wants a connection, reach out to the Durham RTDS, and they'll make that connection for you. If anyone has any comments or questions, please, as we're speaking, put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to address them over the course of this conversation. So, Roy, how was the original concept for the company changed from the original idea to where you are now?
Yeah, so visual defense, if you think, why do we have this weird name, visual defense? It's because we did security systems, right? That's where it comes from, because the focus was defense and security. So we kind of started to dabble with artificial intelligence. And I have worked with Mark as well. He was our advisor for a while, very nice guy. And once we kind of got the AI going, the advisor there, I don't remember if it was Mark, it may have been somebody else, but our advisor there suggested that we speak to also Ontario Centers of Excellence, and kind of reach out to them and just see if there's anything we can do there. Now, I was aware of Ontario Centers of Excellence. We've been in touch a few times with that organization, and my understanding was it was mostly about academic partnerships based on the experience that we had. But I said, okay, we'll try. Why? What do we have to lose? This advisor is saying we should speak to them, and we did reach out, and we had one of the business advisors come to our office, show us some of the programs. There were new programs I was not aware of at the time. One of them was the AVIN program too, which was new. And basically, AVIN, it's Autonomous Vehicle Innovation Network, which then told me many times it's autonomous and connected. So that's important. So our application that we started to think of is, okay, can we use AI within a connected context? It's hard to transition from security to driving an autonomous vehicle, but it is easy to find some things and send them. So it was kind of like the right combination of events. The program was, I guess, recently launched, and it was pretty well formulated. We understood what is necessary. We had some people here at Visual Defense that I talked to about this program and asked if they have some ideas, and they said, oh, there's problems on the roads. Why don't we find some deficiencies like potholes and send them? And then we thought, who would be interested in knowing about the potholes? So the cities would be interested because they're responsible for fixing them. So we just reached out to the city where we're located. The economic development advisor there was very nice and connected us to the roads team. And we showed the guy on the roads that we can teach the AI not to find a giraffe, but to find a pothole. And he was very impressed with this. And kind of the whole thing started to come together for a proposal for a proof of concept with this program, AVIN. So we kind of launched, I guess we kind of launched this proposal in 2019. So about a year after we got into artificial intelligence. And it was a pretty pivotal moment in the company, because what happened is we started to shift people inside the company slowly from security and surveillance development to municipal operations and connected vehicle applications. So here's where we're starting to kind of pivot with what we're doing. And that's how the rover was born.
Great. And I recall that first project with the city of Richmond Hill and having follow-on discussions on how to advance the technology with you, and suggesting that Durham Region was the place to go as an innovation leader in this space. So can you tell us a little bit about how the partnership with Durham Region came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we started, as you said, with Richmond Hill, and I had some experience, as I said, with incremental development. So having done this access control project that we implemented in airports and the train projects, I kind of don't like to spend too much time designing something, getting it perfect and getting it out there. I think that's my personal opinion is the worst thing you can do is basically wait for everything to be perfect before you put it out there. And if you think about what's the biggest obstacle for you to doing something great is wanting it to be perfect, because you'll never get there, right? So I'm not saying you don't want to be perfect, but don't wait for it, right? We have some assumptions we make about what it is that we're developing, what technology are we going to be using, what hardware, who's using it, how they use it. And we start to build a product around these perceptions that we have of the world. So it could be you as the entrepreneur, it could be the people that you work with. But if you're just kind of doing it within a small group of people, you start to get a little bit into this, it's called an echo chamber. You start to hear the same stuff over and over, and you're not getting feedback from outside of the world. So we basically reached out with Richmond Hill, which gave us some referrals to some local cities. We created a work group, and then with this work group, we went ahead and we invited everybody and anybody, basically any city, to partner with us on developing this technology. And to my surprise, Durham Region actually responded to one of our emails and said, "Sounds great. How how do we get started with this? So we sent a device, and it was the beginning of a really, really great partnership with the region.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience working with the region? How that partnership has worked for you?
Yeah. So I'm going to start and say it's been absolutely great and tremendous working with Durham Region. It's exceptionally good. We work with a lot of cities, and I'm going to say that Durham Region is one of the best. And it's especially impressive considering the size of Durham Region, because it's so big too, right? It's composed of multiple municipalities. It's large geographical areas, and quite busy too, because it's in the GTA. So first of all, within the region, getting a little bit more specific, when we kind of launched the project, we worked with a project manager within the maintenance, public works kind of maintenance departments for roads. And I think that the responsibilities of that person were to evaluate new technologies and new process improvements and just new things to do within that department. So he was a really good person to work with. We sent him a device. He kind of put it in his own car. It's usually always the same thing. People don't believe, or I'm not gonna say don't believe, but they want to see in their own eyes that it picks up the potholes. So they put it, they see that it works, and then they start to think, okay, how do we use it? So the next phase was to put it into a patrol vehicle, which is in the region. It's supposed to look for potholes, and we just concluded our first oven project at the time with Richmond Hill, as you mentioned, and we kind of wanted to do a larger, more ambitious project under the program. So the first project we did with the oven program validated that yes, it's possible to do it, and yes, there's demand or need for it. And the other is we've learned a lot. What else do cities want? We kind of wanted to go a lot more ambitious, hire a lot more people, put a lot more people on this project. So I spoke to you about this idea when you were actually at OCI, and yes, you suggested why don't you try Durham Region? They're really great to work with, and I reached out to them, and to my surprise, I'm going to say my surprise because it was extremely fast. Within 3 weeks, we had a signed letter of support from the region for this project. Now, I do want to mention it's not like there were no controls in place or just here you go, here's a letter. We did have a technology that was validated by other cities. It did have to go through some approvals within different people within the region. So the project manager had to go to his manager and his director and the commissioner, and they had legal review. But it went extremely, extremely fast. And I think one of the reasons that Durham Region was able to move so fast with these is because it has this Durham Region Technology Development side, which is one of the 6 programs in Ontario, because Durham Region already did oven projects, and the staff in Durham Region is aware of all these different things that they're doing. And because of that, there's a little bit more comfort and flexibility, kind of doing things that are a little bit outside of, I'm going to say, what's normal day-to-day operation. So Durham Region was already, in my experience, very familiar with it. And I think you guys also like the technology, and we moved really, really fast on it. So continuing with this partnership with Durham Region on this collaborative oven project, we implemented this from 1 patrol vehicle to 5 patrol vehicles pretty quickly afterwards across all the maintenance depots. And then the team at Durham Region started to collect some data because if municipalities evaluate your technology, they're trying to see how it helps and them run their business more efficiently. So they collected some data, and they basically made a couple of submissions. One is the Smart 50 Award, which recognizes smart city programs in North America, I guess globally, that one. And the other, we won with Durham Region, the Transportation Association of Canada Technology Achievement Award. So it's the first time this award category was there. And we won it together with the region. So I can objectively say that we have an exceptional partnership with Durham Region, having won these awards together.
Excellent. So what do you think Durham Region's doing right when it comes to digital transformation? And do you think there's room for improvement?
I can speak about like my experience with Durham Region. I do kind of monitor the LinkedIn, and I see that there's a lot of smart community awards Durham Region wins even outside of our partnership together. But I think there's a few things that Durham Region is doing really, really good. The first is I think that within departments having this technical project manager position that can kind of step outside of the process and look at how to improve things, that's really, really good and useful. And what happens, a lot of cities, the staff is so busy and overwhelmed with responding to the citizens' needs and doing the work that sometimes there's no time to look into new technologies and how to employ them. And it's a process to employ new technologies, right? Because you got to teach people how to use it. You got to think about what are the things that you want to achieve and put it in. So I think the fact that Durham Region had this role was very, very good, and that role was well supported by management. And I think also that Durham Region, like I said before, because it's already involved in innovation programs like Oven, and because it does have environment for testing and developing new technologies like the Durham Region Technology Development Site, and because of organizations that you have like the Spark Center, where you kind of help to work with community, with the business community to solve problems and to kind of get innovation going. I think all these things really make sure give the region a lot of different ways that it can work with different organizations. And there's a lot of different options to do this. And I think, like I said, we're looking for incremental developments. We're not looking for big developments. So having all these different projects and pilots going on, that's the right way to go. So I think Durham Region is really got a lot of great things, making it a leader in digital transformation. So I may sound a little bit cheesy here, but I'm going to say you guys get 10 out of 10. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but in my experience, I don't think there's much that I would have changed. I think everything went extremely smoothly, and it was really great work.
That's great, Roy. Any general advice for the other entrepreneurs out there with startup companies and so on that are looking to work with municipalities? Any advice for them?
Yeah, I'm going to give one advice, which is patience. When you're working, as I said, with the public sector, you have to understand that it's very, very busy. There's a lot of things that are going on within cities. Actually, municipalities run the cities. So at any given point, when you reach out to them, people may be away on vacation. They may be in the middle of a project, and they can't just take your technology without assigning somebody to look into it. You also don't want to put a technology there without somebody looking into it, because it's not going to go anywhere. So it's very, very important to be patient and to understand that even now, if now is not the right time to do it, it doesn't mean that there won't be a right time to do it. So just reach out, educate them about what you have, see if you can get any feedback. They may be interested. If they're interested, they may have to try to figure out what program or what department or what person would be responsible for this, and that can take some time too. And just take whatever feedback you get, improve on it, and try again with that municipality and with other ones. So the other thing is, of course, just because the process can be a little slow, I would recommend to try to work with more than one at any given point, to work with a few of them, and it just this way you have at least a project moving at some place at some time at any given point.
Great. Just once again to the audience, if you have any questions, please tap them into the chat. Joel, I see your question there, and I will be addressing that. I'm going to save that question to the end, so just a heads up. So what would you say has been your most favorite and least favorite part of the journey so far?
Yeah, so the most favorite part is just listening to. It's a bit cheesy. I'm sorry, I keep saying cheesy, but I just feel like these are the things that at least motivate me. I like to hear our customers talk about our partnership together. So basically saying how we work together, demonstrating what we do, and it is really about the partnership and seeing the results that you do and how they impact people's lives. And I can give you one example actually from this week. I did a presentation with another city on the use of the rover technology, and we went through and I talked about the technology, and the city talked about how it's implemented, and there was a questions and answers session at the end. It was just this week. And some gentleman in the audience asked a question, we answered it, and then he basically turned around to the audience after he was done. He said, "Thank you." He turned around to the audience and said, "Just so you know, everybody, we have this technology implemented in the city of so-and-so. These guys are for real. It does what they say they do, and it works great." And when you hear it kind of like this happiness with what you do and how it helps cities, and people will go ahead and say it to everybody. For me, this is a big motivator because it validates that all the hard work you're doing is making an impact. The least favorite part is sometimes, and I guess that applies to any job, you can get into a bit of like a grind. There's too many things that are coming your way at the same time. You don't want to say no to all of them because you don't know which one is the one that's going to pan out. So you end up working on all of them, and it ends up spilling into um, evenings and weekends sometimes. So just and that's for any entrepreneur, it's a given. So that's my least favorite part. But I do say that I am aware of these periods, and I do make sure that it's not constantly. I will have these bursts of hard work, but then I give myself some time off as well. So just some advice there as well, not to keep it going for too long.
That's great advice, Roy. And I would not worry about using the word cheesy. I think it just speaks to your authenticity, Roy, and the genuineness of what you do and the stories that you tell. And the company's real, the technology's real, and we're big fans for sure. So, what would you consider to be Visual Defense's biggest accomplishment to date?
So the biggest accomplishment we have, I think it's basically the people that we have in this company. So we're very, very lucky because our journey is that of pivoting. It's not of building a company from the ground up. That was done, I guess, by a different generation of people within this company. But essentially, all the people that I started working with here about 15 years ago, a lot of them are still here today. And I see the same people over and over for 15 years. And it's very nice to come to an office and know that there's reliable, hardworking people that kind of work with you, and you work together as a team to solve problems. So it's just the environment, I think, that we have. And having these people to work with you, it's also great because as we're growing and adding more people in, we have great mentors and people that put great give great personal examples and guidance to our new generation of people. So that's within Visual Defense, I'd say that's the biggest accomplishment.
And if you were to do it again, what would you do differently?
So I think overall the process has been the stars aligned in this case quite well. I don't think I could, like our team could have done things much differently. We could have maybe moved some more resources to this project a little bit faster. We could have maybe moved ahead a little faster without waiting for some grant programs. But overall, I think in terms of like where the technology was, where our company was, where how we managed to leverage some government funding to develop this technology, we could not have moved much faster than what we have. So if we've done those things, like those incremental little things, maybe we'd be 3 months ahead, I think, of where we want to be. So it'd be like where we will be in 3 months. So overall, I think, like I said, I was very lucky to have some experience as well that I think helped me to make, in this case, the right decisions. I don't always make the right decisions, but in this case, yeah.
So, can you share what you would say are some of the biggest roadblocks for an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so the first is money. It's the number one thing that you need for a business because a business, it's like food for business. So the business needs to eat, and you got to make sure that you have enough money for at least 6 to 12 months to run your operations. And that's kind of what I said about like for us moving how we're moving. I always look that we have sufficient cash or sufficient forecast of cash to go to where we want to be next. So you need to keep an eye on it. You need to figure out where it's coming from. You need to tap into government programs wherever you can, and you need to figure out a system that makes it easier. So the first few times it's always harder with the government programs. At that point, you have some templates, so it gets a little bit easier to work with. And the second thing that I would just, I guess, give us an advice to our audience is don't move too slow. Don't wait too much. You should get your product out to the market as soon as possible. Don't rush too much. It has to be with some incremental cost and risk. So I'm going to be the first to give you the bad news. If you're developing a product, it's never going to be good enough for everybody. You will never have 100% market share. So you're not going to be perfect. Now, breathe in, right? Think about it for a second. That's a relief. You don't have to be perfect. So if you're not going to be perfect and you're not going to be like good for everybody and anybody. Let's now identify some people that we are good for. Let's work with these people to figure what's the minimum product that I have that these people are happy with it, and it solves a problem for them. And let's work with them to see how we can improve it for them. Now, as you have more and more of these people that you work with, you start to see patterns and trends that would then apply to more people. So you can basically, it's a cycle. You put, for example, let's say you're developing a medical device. You might start with a university, give them the device, work with them, get some feedback, improve on it. Now you give it to 3 or 4 universities, collect some feedback. Then you give it to 10 universities and a hospital, and you start to kind of like get through this iterative design process. And I'm going to say that if you do that, you can overcome this roadblock that I think a lot of organizations are facing, where they keep waiting and waiting and waiting and not launching their product.
That's great. So, Roy, taking a kind of a 10,000 foot view, how have your life experiences and career experiences helped you to be successful as an entrepreneur?
So I think for an entrepreneur, you have to be a bit of a jack of all trades. So you can't be perfect in everything. I'm personally not the best salesperson. I'm not the best presenter. I'm not the best programmer. For all of these things, there's people here that do this job better than me, or the best engineer for that matter. But whatever I do, I try to give it 100%. And within our company, I do like and want to be involved in everything. Not in the details, but just, you have a meeting once a week with a couple of people. You sit with them, you just kind of see what they're doing, you give your advice on it, and you follow up on it every week. So an hour, with our R&D department a week, an hour with our sales and marketing team a week, an hour with our data team a week, an hour with our support team every 2 weeks. So you want to be involved in everything. But that's why I said an hour. You also want to delegate and to give people responsibility. So you just make sure that you stay involved. Don't just assume that if something is out there, it's gonna get done exactly how it's needed. And because you're involved in everything, you can bring in feedback and suggestions from one team to the others. For example, our sales and marketing team might say, everybody's asking us if we have this. And then you go to the R&D meeting where they prioritize the features, and you say, okay, they've asked for this in the other meeting last week, so you can kind of transition it. You also can't do everything and anything, so you should also, as an entrepreneur, focus on what you're good at and what you're good at, what you like, and where you can make the most impact in the business. So for the other 80% of your time that you're not involved in all of the things that are going on, you should give 100% in that area to push forward. So for me, like I said, it's the partnership strategy and innovation. So I work on building projects and partnering with cities and kind of steering where we're going. And there's a lot of work associated with it as well. So yeah, broad exposure is good. And, don't be afraid to try new things within your organization, because it helps you understand the processes within your organization better, and it helps you to run your business better.
That's great. Thanks, Ray. So we're getting close to the end here. And before I get to Joel's final question, I'll ask you one more question. Being that after this session, we're moving into a networking session, it's kind of an appropriate question. Do you have any networking tips or tricks for entrepreneurs, for business owners?
Yeah, so the first thing is always be positive and say yes. If you do get a suggestion to speak to somebody, you should always be polite, make the call. You don't know what's going to happen with it. So I'm going to say that probably 80% of these introductions go nowhere, but 20% do. And even of the 80% that go nowhere, today you don't have an opportunity with this person, but maybe in a year or two you'll remember him. You already have a discussion or an introduction for him. So if you reach out to him, he's more likely to pick up the phone and discuss it with you. So don't say no to this. Of course, if somebody says go on an airplane and fly to the other side of the world for a meeting, you have to kind of balance your time commitment and the cost to the opportunity. But in general, especially in this age with Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, it's very, very easy to just jump in and on a call and meet somebody new and learn to work with them. And the second thing is just in your mindset when you work with people, I don't actually like to use the word customers, and I try to avoid using it as much as possible. Um, I like to think about everybody as a potential partner. We partner on something. They have a problem, we have a solution, and we partner to solve it. They know that if they need this solution solved, there may be some cost to it, and they might ask you how much it costs to know. But at the end of the day, you're working with people to help to address some need for them. And if you keep this mentality, your interactions with people also gets a lot more relaxing and a lot more stressful, because you're not necessarily trying to sell something, you're trying to work with them. And if you do that, that is one thing that I found that works really, really good for me, and I encourage other people here at Visual Defense to have this approach as well. And as I said, also with networking, you do want to make sure that you have some follow-ups on them as well. So you have the initial meeting, you see if there's a potential, or it's completely there's nothing you can partner with this person at this time. And then if there is an opportunity that you can partner with, just slowly, make notes to yourself to follow up. So usually I like to say the double rule, not to overwhelm people. You met a person, send them a thank you email, wait a few days, see if there's an opportunity to kind of discuss further, or if they have more questions, follow up a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and so on. And as I said before, sometimes the people are interested in what you have, but it's just not the right time for personal reason, for organizational reason, for whatever. So just if you have this approach, a lot of good things will happen. And I'll leave it at that for networking.
That's a great, fantastic advice, Roy. So we'll Roy Nascimento has a question, and we'll close on this question. So moving from basic pothole spotting through an in-vehicle app, could you share some thoughts on the vision for what comes next for this endeavor?
Yeah, so we keep adding more and more things. So our AI now also inspects signs. It started to do that recently. We also inspect now manholes, and essentially the future that we're seeing with this technology is it's a smart camera that goes into fleets. It collects data about all sorts of assets and infrastructure from different vehicles to different departments, and it all goes into one place where they kind of get to use it to plan their work better, budget it better, be more proactive and less reactive, so we can fix problems before they become problems. And we've seen a lot of results by the cities that we work with, where using the system for potholes, the complaints and claims drop by 50%. So nothing prevents us from taking this proactive approach and moving it to doing other things as well.
That's great. Thank you. Any final thoughts you want to leave the entrepreneurial community here with today?
Sure, yeah. So just remember, like I said, sometimes there's a lot of work, and being an entrepreneur is like running a marathon. So if you will run too fast early on, you will burn out. So don't let the job that you have affect your state of mind. Make sure you eat healthy food, get 8 hours of sleep if you can. Try to have 2 or 3 hours without the phone. I know it's difficult, but I try in the morning from when I wake up until I get to work not to be on the phone. So at least I don't constantly think about work. If you can exercise, do it. And make sure to spend some time with your family. And, it doesn't mean that the rest of the day you can't be super efficient. So for me, I always eat my lunch at my desk, because the rest of the day, like I said, I try to be productive. So that's the suggestion.
That's great. Well, Roy, thank you so much for joining us here today. You're a real professional. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you here and reconnecting with you. It's been a while since we've chatted. So just wanted to express my gratitude for joining us here today and sharing a lot of advice and wisdom. I thought it was fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And it's great to talk about this with you. I feel like you've been part of this journey as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to continuing to follow your journey, and much success in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. So we're now going to move into the closing of this event. The Startup Grind was proudly presented by the Spark Center today in partnership with the Durham RTDS. They want to say thank you again to Spark Center's elite partners, Bereskin and Parr LLP, Finance Without Borders, RDP Associates, Leighton, and Suresh Law. If you haven't already, checked out durhamrtds.ca and click on News and Events at the top to register for the virtual conference and in-person networking coming up on November 3rd. The next Startup Grind is taking place on Thursday, November the 17th, and in recognition of Women's Entrepreneurship Day on November the 19th, is being put on in partnership with Perro Center for Women's Enterprise, and will feature Denise Atkinson, the founder of T-Horse. Be sure to visit Spark Center's social pages for more details and to register. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us here today, and see you at the networking session.